The conference hall in Seoul shimmered under soft white lights, the kind meant to make the elite feel more important than they already were. Guests murmured in polite tones, moving like silk shadows between glossy tables decorated with orchids and miniature flags of the 52 nations represented that evening. But Jasmine Carter wasn't there to be impressed. She stood near the back, clutching her notebook against her fitted gray dress, watching the audience with the same expression she used to watch students during her NGO workshops. Focused, alert, ready. Tall, dark-skinned, and beautiful with features that radiated quiet strength. She carried herself like someone who had fought battles no one else could see. Tonight's event, Global Women Rising Summit, had invited her as one of the panelists. She was the youngest speaker there, the only African-American speaker, and the only one who wasn't backed by a million-dollar organization. She was little more than a determined woman with a nonprofit and a voice. Yet somehow that was enough. "Miss Carter," a staff member whispered, touching her arm. "You're up next." Her heart fluttered in her chest. She breathed in deeply. "You've got this," she told herself quietly. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that somewhere in the audience, a pair of dark eyes had already found her. Eyes that belonged to Min-Soo Kong, CEO of Kong Holdings, son of the Kong conglomerate, husband to Sophia Lee, a man trapped in a marriage arranged like a business contract. He sat at an angle, leaning slightly forward, his expression unreadable but intensely focused. His black suit fit him perfectly, his jawline sharp enough to cut through steel. His hair was neatly styled, but a single rebellious strand rested against his forehead, giving him a disarming softness he never allowed anyone to notice. Except tonight, he wasn't thinking of his image. He was thinking of her, the woman with fire in her eyes, the woman who walked onto the stage with quiet confidence, lifting the microphone like she was about to lift a burden off the world. "Good evening," Jasmine began, her voice strong, warm, and steady. "Tonight, I want to talk about why empowering women is not just a trend, it's a necessity." Her words flowed like poetry, smooth but powerful. She spoke about equality, financial independence, education, and the right to live without fear. She spoke about her own mother working 3 jobs to raise her and her younger brother. She spoke about the strength of women who refused to stay silent. People listened. But Min-Soo didn't just listen, he felt. Every sentence carved through him, leaving echoes he couldn't ignore. It wasn't attraction, though she was stunning. It wasn't sympathy, though her story was moving. It was recognition. She spoke with a courage he had long buried. When she finished, the audience erupted into applause loud enough to make the chandeliers tremble. But Jasmine stepped off the stage quietly, almost shyly, as though applause wasn't something she believed she deserved. She didn't notice the man who stood up for her. Min-Soo. He clapped long after others had stopped. He never got the chance to approach her, though he wanted to. His assistant had rushed over, whispering something about a board meeting and his father waiting. Duty pulled him away. But later that night, fate intervened. Hard. Jasmine walked out of the hotel and into the quiet Seoul night, hugging her jacket around her. It was cold, but refreshing after the heated conversations inside. She checked her phone, no messages. Kofi didn't reply, but that wasn't surprising. He often slept early from exhaustion. She was thinking about which bus to take back to her hostel when she heard voices down the side street. Then a grunt. Then a hit. Someone was being attacked. Fear prickled her skin, but she moved toward the sound before reason could stop her. And there he was, a man struggling as 2 figures tried to snatch his briefcase and shove him against a wall. "Hey!" Jasmine shouted. "Leave him alone." The attackers looked up, surprised she hadn't simply walked away. One of them cursed. They lunged. Jasmine reacted on instinct, her brother's boxing lessons rushing back into her muscles. She jabbed, ducked, threw a sharp kick that stunned one of the men. The victim fought back too, managing to elbow the second attacker. Eventually, the men ran off, disappearing into the narrow alley. Jasmine turned to the man. "Are you okay?" He looked at her, breathless, stunned, beautiful and startled at the same time. It was Min-Soo, but neither knew the other's name yet. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, caught in a strange pause where the world felt briefly suspended. I'm fine, he said, straightening his jacket. You shouldn't have risked yourself. And you shouldn't walk alone at night with a briefcase worth stealing. She fired back, but her tone was warm. Despite everything, he chuckled softly. You're right. He hesitated, as though wanting to say something else. But before he could, his phone rang. His expression darkened instantly. He answered. Yes, Father. I'm on my way. He ended the call with a sigh. Thank you, he told her, his voice sincere. Really? Then he walked away. He never asked her name. She never asked his. Just two strangers whose paths crossed for only 3 minutes. 3 minutes that would change both of their lives forever. A year later, Jasmine stared at the surrogacy agency building as if it were a trap she was willingly walking into. Maybe she was. But what choice did she have? The doctor's words still echoed in her mind. Kofi needs a kidney transplant as soon as possible. Without it, he won't survive. Her hands trembled as she clutched the paper with the transplant estimate. It was more money than her entire family had ever seen. She wiped her tears, lifted her chin, and stepped inside. The agency was warm, elegant, filled with soft music that tried too hard to soothe people like her. Women with no options left. A receptionist greeted her. Welcome, Miss Carter. The couple you matched with is already here. Her heart pounded. This was it. This was the moment she agreed to become a surrogate for strangers. She walked into the meeting room, forcing a smile. Then her world tilted. Sitting at the table was the man from Seoul, Min-soo, the man whose life she saved, the man who clapped longest for her speech, the man whose eyes she never forgot. His eyes widened the moment he saw her. It's you, he breathed. She swallowed. It's you. But before either could say more, someone else entered. Sophia Lee, tall, gorgeous, sharp cheekbones, red lipstick, perfect hair. A woman crafted for magazine covers. Her expression was calm, cold, uninterested. She didn't even look at Min-soo as she took the seat beside him. Let's begin, Sophia said, crossing her legs. Jasmine suddenly felt small, but Min-soo kept glancing at her. Not like a stranger, like someone trying to remember a detail he misplaced, like someone searching for the right question. The surrogacy coordinator smiled professionally. Miss Carter, Mr. Kong. Mrs. Kong, congratulations on the match. Sophia barely nodded. Yes, let's get the paperwork done. Min-soo's voice, when he finally spoke, was soft but conflicted. Are you sure you're comfortable with this? He asked Jasmine. I am, she replied. She wasn't. But she needed the money. She needed to save Kofi. Sophia interrupted. Confidentiality is key. No emotional involvement, no complications. The contract is clear. Jasmine nodded even though something twisted inside her. Min-soo looked at Sophia. His jaw tightened. Their marriage was made of glass. Clear, fragile, and full of cracks. Jasmine could see it already. The coordinator continued talking, but Jasmine wasn't listening anymore. Her mind drifted to a single question. Why did fate bring me back to this man? Later, after formalities ended, Jasmine stepped outside to breathe. The crisp air hit her face, grounding her again. She heard footsteps behind her. Jasmine! A familiar voice called. She stiffened. Min-soo approached slowly, unsure if she wanted him near. I didn't know it was you, he said quietly. The woman from the conference. The one who helped me that night. Jasmine swallowed. I didn't expect this either. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Min-soo said something that made her heart ache. Thank you for everything. I owe you more than you know. She looked down. You don't owe me anything. But she was wrong. He would soon owe her everything. More than she ever imagined. Because this wasn't a simple surrogacy. This wasn't a coincidence. This was the beginning of a storm destined to change all three of their lives. Secrets were waiting to be uncovered. Hearts were waiting to be broken and rebuilt. And fate, unpredictable, unstoppable fate, had only just begun weaving them together. Their story was only starting. And the twists were coming for them all. The sun dipped behind the Seoul skyline as Jasmine stepped out of the surrogacy agency and into the cool evening air. Her heart felt heavy, as if the contract she signed moments ago had been tattooed onto her ribs. She inhaled deeply, but the air didn't reach her lungs. Her legs felt weak. Her hands trembled. The reality of what she had just agreed to began tightening around her like an invisible rope. She was going to carry a child for a married couple. A man she barely knew. A woman who looked at her like an inconvenience. A family whose world she didn't belong to. All for the money that would save Kofi's life. A car slowed beside her. Jasmine stiffened until she saw him. Minsu. He rolled down the window. His eyes, deep brown and unreadable, softened when they met hers. "Are you heading back alone?" he asked. "Yes," she said cautiously. "Let me take you home." She shook her head immediately. No, it's fine. I insist." But he stepped out anyway, closing the door gently behind him. "Jasmine, after everything, the least I can do is make sure you get home safely. Please." The sincerity in his voice disarmed her. She hesitated. This wasn't a simple ride. She could feel it. This moment was the beginning of something dangerous, intimate, unspoken. Still, she nodded. "Okay." He opened the door for her, and she slipped into the warm, leather-scented interior. As he drove, the silence between them hummed with unasked questions. "Jasmine," he finally said, "I had no idea you were the woman we were matched with." "Same here," she murmured. "I thought of you often after the conference." Her breath caught. She didn't know why that confession hit her so deeply. "And after that night," he exhaled. "You helped me when you didn't have to." "You deserved help," she whispered. "No," he said quietly. "I just didn't expect anyone to care." The sadness in his voice struck her. Not because he said it, but because she believed him. The world must have been very cold for a man like him to be surprised by kindness. She turned to the window as buildings rushed by, lights blurring like tears she refused to shed. When he reached her building, a small, aging apartment block, the car felt too quiet, too meaningful. "Thank you," she said faintly. "Jasmine," he said before she could open the door. "If you ever need anything during this process, doctor visits, transportation, support, please contact me directly." She bit her lip. "Isn't that supposed to be done through the agency?" "It is," he admitted. "But I want to be there, not as a CEO, just as the father." The word father sat strangely in the air between them. Jasmine nodded slowly. "Okay." She stepped out of the car. He didn't drive away immediately. He waited until she safely entered the lobby. And Jasmine, despite all her walls, felt a small, dangerous warmth bloom inside her chest. Meanwhile, in the penthouse on the other side of Seoul, Sophia Lee walked into the living room, still dressed in a white silk blouse and black pencil skirt. Clothes so elegant they could break someone's confidence just by existing. The city lights behind her window sparkled like diamonds, but her face was carved from stone. She poured herself a glass of white wine and sank into the cream leather sofa. She didn't cry. She never cried. Crying was messy. Crying was weakness. But tonight, something inside her stung. A baby. Her baby. No, not her baby, she corrected. A baby that would be born from her eggs but carried by a stranger. A baby she didn't want. A baby she was pressured into agreeing to for the sake of business. A baby that would tie her to Minsu forever. She took a slow sip of wine. "What am I doing?" she whispered to the empty room. In the silence, memories from her childhood slipped into her thoughts like unwelcome ghosts. Her father's voice. "You must protect your beauty, Sophia. It is your legacy." Her mother, not that she ever met her, was spoken about like a goddess. Beautiful, elegant, perfect. Everything Sophia was expected to become. Everything except a mother. Her father never said it directly, but she always felt it. "You killed her." Her grip tightened around the wine glass until her knuckles turned white. Becoming pregnant was her greatest fear. The idea of childbirth, of losing control, losing her body, losing her life, terrified her more than anything. When the Kong family proposed surrogacy, she agreed with one condition. "I want nothing to do with the baby." She told herself she didn't care. She believed it. But today, when Jasmine walked in, something inside her cracked. She saw the way Minsu looked at Jasmine. Small, brief, barely a glance. But it was there. A softness he never showed her. Her jaw clenched as jealousy, ugly and sharp, curled in her chest like a snake. She hated it. She hated herself for feeling it. Sophia Lee did not get jealous. She did not get insecure. She was built to be perfect. But for the first time in years, she felt threatened. She threw back the rest of the wine, set the glass down, and stared out into the glittering night. "Don't ruin this for me," she murmured, as if Jasmine could hear her across the city. Jasmine reached her apartment and stepped inside quietly, so she wouldn't wake her younger brother. But she didn't need to worry. Kofi was sitting up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, pale but smiling. "You're home late," he said. Jasmine rushed to him. "Why aren't you resting?" "I was waiting for you," he said softly. Her heart tightened. Kofi, at only 19, looked like a boy trapped in a man's body of suffering. His medical condition drained him, but he never complained. He studied her face. "You look different." Jasmine forced a smile. "Just a long day. I had a meeting." "A job meeting?" She swallowed. "Something like that." He didn't push. He trusted her too much. "Are you hungry?" she asked, sitting beside him. "A little." She warmed some leftover soup, and they ate together quietly. Kofi leaned his head on her shoulder, and Jasmine brushed his hair gently. He whispered, "Jazzy, thank you for everything." She closed her eyes, fighting tears. She was doing the surrogacy for him. Only him. She prayed he would never know the cost. Across the city, Minsu entered the penthouse to find Sophia staring out the window. "You were gone long," she said without turning. "Work," he replied. "Well, everything is set. The contract is signed." She finally turned, her eyes cold. "We should toast." He didn't bother pretending. "To what?" he asked. "To business." He didn't respond. Sophia walked closer, studying him like he was a dress she needed to alter. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine." "You're thinking about her." His silence was answer enough. Sophia's lips tightened. "Don't get any ideas. She's here for one purpose." Minsu looked away. "I know." "Good." Her voice softened just a fraction. "We agreed no emotions. No complications." He nodded. But deep inside he knew something had already begun. Something he didn't want. Something he couldn't stop. Something he couldn't name yet. Fate had opened a door. And none of them were prepared for the storm waiting on the other side. Late that night, after Sophia fell asleep in the guest bedroom, because they hadn't shared a bed in months, Minsu walked onto the balcony alone. The city stretched endlessly below him. He closed his eyes. Jasmine's face flashed in his mind. Her voice, her bravery, her quiet strength. The world felt too loud, too heavy, too full of expectations he couldn't bear anymore. He whispered, "What am I doing?" But the night didn't answer. Silence did. And somewhere across the city, Jasmine lay awake too, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the man whose life was now intertwined with hers. Minsu. The man she needed to keep her distance from. The man whose child she would carry. The man fate had thrown into her life twice already. And she knew, twice was never an accident. It was the beginning. A beginning none of them were ready for. The morning sunlight filtered weakly through the tinted windows of the penthouse office as Minsu stood before the floor-to-ceiling glass, both hands buried deep in his pockets. Soul stretched out beneath him like a living circuit board, bright, intricate, pulsing with ambition. But today, the city didn't inspire him. It felt heavy, distant, as if even the skyline sensed the storm quietly gathering inside him. He had barely slept. The surrogacy meeting replayed in his mind in a loop he couldn't escape. Jasmine's startled eyes when she recognized him, the way her voice trembled for half a second before she regained control, and that quiet strength she carried like a watermark beneath every word she spoke. He had known she was remarkable the moment he heard her speak at the empowerment conference months ago. But yesterday was different. Yesterday she stopped being a memory. She became real, tangible, vulnerable, and now she was about to carry his child. A child he wasn't supposed to want. A child his wife never wanted in the first place. A knock pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in," he said. His assistant, Unmi, slipped inside with a tablet clutched to her chest. "Sir, Mrs. Lee is asking if you'll be home for dinner. She said she wants to discuss the press launch for her spring collection." Min-soo inhaled slowly. "Not again." "I'll be late," he said. "You can let her know." "Yes, sir." Unmi hesitated. "And the legal team wants to confirm the signing schedule for the surrogacy contract. The agency said Ms. Jasmine is ready whenever you are. They suggested later this afternoon." His chest tightened. "Jasmine, the contract, the next step." "Book it," he said, but his voice didn't sound like his own. Across the city, Jasmine stood in the cramped kitchen of the apartment she shared with her mother and younger brother. The kettle hissed softly on the stove, and she stirred honey into a chipped mug of tea while her mother hummed a gospel song under her breath. Kofi sat at the small dining table, his head resting on his folded arms. His face looked a little grayer today, a little more tired. "You okay, Kofi?" she asked. He lifted his head with a crooked smile. "I'm fine, Jazz. Just sleepy." His voice was thin, weak. It frightened her every time. She set the tea down in front of him. "Take this." Slowly. Her mother moved closer, resting her hands on Jasmine's shoulders. "Are you sure about all this, baby? The surrogacy. This is a big decision." "I'm sure," Jasmine whispered, even though her heart felt like paper. Her mother squeezed gently. "Just because you're strong doesn't mean you can't be scared." Jasmine swallowed hard. "I'm scared, but I'm more scared of losing him." Her mother nodded, eyes misty. "Then we do what we have to do." A vibration buzzed in Jasmine's pocket. A message from the agency. "Min-soo's team has agreed to finalize the contract this afternoon. Please arrive by 3 p.m. Her hand trembled slightly. It was happening. It was real. She stepped into her bedroom and closed the door behind her, pressing a hand to her chest. Her heart didn't beat steadily, no. It fluttered, stuttered, pulsed in an uneven rhythm she couldn't control. She wasn't just signing a contract today. She was stepping into the lives of two powerful people, one of whom she could not afford to feel anything for. But her mind betrayed her, playing the memory of Min-soo's eyes, warm, unreadable, lingering too long, as if they carried a message only she could interpret. She shook herself hard. "No," she whispered. "Focus. Do this for Kofi. Nothing else." But a part of her, a quiet, forbidden part, already knew things were not going to be that simple. The surrogacy agency's conference room was polished and cold, with white walls and sharp edges that made Jasmine feel small. Too small. As if the room had been designed to remind people of their place. She smoothed her skirt with trembling fingers while waiting. When the door opened, she felt it before she saw him. Min-soo stepped inside, looking carved from calm and control. A dark suit, a muted tie, hair styled with effortless precision. Yet his eyes softened the moment they met hers. "Ms. Jasmine," he said quietly. "Mr. Han," she replied, trying to steady her breath. Behind him, Sophia Lee entered. Her presence changed the air instantly. Sophia was stunning. Tall, elegant, sculpted cheekbones, flawless skin, and an aura of someone who expected the world to adjust around her. She wore sleek cream trousers, a silk blouse, and a diamond necklace that caught the light like a command. Her eyes scanned Jasmine with cool, polite detachment. "So you're the surrogate," Sophia said, voice crisp. Jasmine straightened. "Yes, Jasmine Thompson." Sophia gave a stiff nod, then turned to the agency coordinator. "Shall we move forward? I have an event in an hour." No warmth. No attempt at connection. This wasn't a woman excited to become a mother. This was a business meeting. The terms. The legal team began reviewing the contract. Heavy checkmark financial compensation. Heavy checkmark full medical coverage. Heavy checkmark privacy clauses. Heavy checkmark restrictions on physical activities. Heavy checkmark required appointments. But the line that struck Jasmine hardest was the last one. The surrogate will have no legal rights to the child. Of course, she already knew that. But hearing it, seeing it on paper, she clenched her hands under the table. Then, unexpectedly, Minsu spoke. "I want an additional clause," he said. The room froze. Sophia turned sharply. "What clause?" He kept his eyes on the lawyer. "I want Jasmine to have access to the best private hospital. Not the standard one listed here. And I want her mother and brother added to the medical insurance coverage. For the duration of the pregnancy." Jasmine's breath caught. Sophia's jaw tensed. "Why would you add that? This is already." "Because it matters," he said, still calm. Sophia glared. "We don't need to pay for her entire family, Minsu." He turned to his wife then, voice quiet but firm. "We're asking her to carry our child for 9 months. The least we can do is make sure her family is taken care of." Sophia crossed her arms. "This isn't charity." "No," he replied. "It's decency." The room fell into an uneasy silence. Jasmine stared at the table, overwhelmed. No one had ever defended her like that. No one had ever spoken on her behalf with that kind of conviction. Sophia exhaled a sharp, irritated breath. "Fine. Whatever. Just sign the contract." But Minsu wasn't looking at Sophia anymore. He was looking at Jasmine. His expression was unreadable. Soft, warm, almost protective. "Is that acceptable to you?" he asked her. Her lips parted. "Yes, thank you. Truly." For a moment, neither of them looked away, and something unspoken shimmered between them. Something dangerous. Something neither one of them acknowledged, but both of them felt. After the signing, Sophia stormed out of the room, heels striking the floor like sparks. She barely waited for Minsu to step into the hallway before rounding on him. What was that stunt inside? Paying for her family? "Are you trying to embarrass me?" Minsu inhaled, exhausted. "Sophia." "No. No, because I need to understand." Her eyes narrowed. "Why were you so invested?" His voice stayed level. "I'm not invested. I'm responsible. There's a difference." She scoffed. "Please. You've changed ever since this surrogacy started. And you barely speak to me anymore." He didn't respond, because she wasn't wrong. But he didn't have the energy to deal with her vanity, her entitlement, or her endless need for attention. He turned away, but she grabbed his wrist. "Don't walk away from me." Her grip was tight, nails digging into his skin. "Let go," he said quietly. She did, slowly. Then something flickered across her face. Fear? Insecurity? Jealousy? Before she masked it again. "Fine," she said coldly. "But don't forget why we're doing this. This child isn't for love. It's for the family name. For the company." The words struck him like ice. Sophia turned and walked away. But instead of anger, he felt something else. A hollow ache in the spaces where love should have lived. Jasmine stepped outside the building into the late afternoon sunlight, still shaken by everything that had happened. She hugged her folder of documents against her chest. "Jasmine." She turned. Minsu stood a few steps behind her, his expression unexpectedly soft. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded, though her eyes betrayed her. "I'm just nervous," she admitted. "And grateful. What you did today. You didn't have to." He stepped closer, hands in his pockets. "You deserved it." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Real weight. Jasmine's heart fluttered. "Thank you." He hesitated, then said quietly, "I meant what I said. Anything you need during this process, I'll make sure you have it." She swallowed. "Why are you being so kind?" He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Because you're about to do something life-changing for me." Their eyes met again, deeper this time. Longer. Too long. A car horn blared down the street, breaking the moment. Jasmine stepped back, flustered. I should go. He nodded. Of course. I'll see you at the medical screening next week. She turned and began walking away. But halfway down the steps, she paused. A strange, warm sensation pooled in her chest, pulling her back for one last glance. Minsu was still standing there, watching her. And when their eyes met for the final time, he smiled. A small, gentle smile he hadn't shown anyone in a long time. And Jasmine knew. This story was no longer just a contract. It was the beginning of something none of them were prepared for. Something that would test loyalty, devotion, desire, and fate. The waiting room of St. Helena's private hospital carried a quiet, polished elegance. Soft jazz in the background, glass partitions, warm white lighting that made everything feel expensive and impossibly calm. It didn't match the knot twisting tightly in Jasmine's stomach. She sat on the edge of a cream-colored sofa, her hands clenched together, her foot tapping in restless, uneven beats. Today wasn't the implant procedure that would come later, but it was the first major medical screening. The blood work, the psychological evaluation, the full physical exam. The first real step toward becoming a surrogate, toward carrying Minsu's child. Her heart fluttered at the thought, something it shouldn't do. She inhaled deeply, trying to steady herself. Her mother sat beside her, flipping slowly through a magazine, though she hadn't turned a page in several minutes. Her younger brother, Kofi, dozed quietly with his head resting on her shoulder, exhaustion pulling him into a shallow sleep. He didn't sleep well last night, her mother whispered, brushing a hand over his forehead. I noticed, Jasmine said softly. He kept saying everything would get better soon, that this is the beginning of hope. Jasmine swallowed the sting of tears and nodded, because that was exactly what this was. Hope, the only thing that kept her steady, the only thing that made her sign the contract without letting fear swallow her whole. A nurse approached the family with a polite bow. Ms. Jasmine, your sponsor has arrived. Her mother raised an eyebrow. Sponsor? Jasmine froze, but the answer came a moment later, wrapped in a presence that shifted the air. Minsu. He walked into the waiting room dressed in a crisp charcoal suit, dark coat draped over one arm, his expression composed and warm in the way that made her pulse trip over itself. He was alone. No Sophia. No assistant. Just him. Good morning, he said, offering a small smile. Jasmine's mother looked him over sharply, first in curiosity, then in recognition. You're the CEO she talked about, her mother murmured, studying him carefully. Jasmine froze. Mom! But Minsu bowed respectfully. Yes, ma'am. Han Minsu. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Her mother blinked, surprised by his humility, and nodded. Likewise. He looked at Kofi next, his expression softening. How are you feeling? Kofi stirred awake at the sound of his voice, blinking groggily. Tired. A little. Minsu crouched down so they were eye level, something that shocked Jasmine to her core. Jasmine told me you like video games. Kofi perked a little. I do. What's your favorite? Valor Arena. Minsu's eyes lit with familiarity. I play that sometimes. You do. Kofi gaped. Yes, though I'm not very good. Kofi smiled for the first time that morning. Watching them talk, watching how easily Minsu slipped into kindness, into humanity. Something soft and dangerous warmed Jasmine's chest. Her mother watched too, quiet and thoughtful, but with an expression Jasmine couldn't decipher. After a few minutes, Minsu rose and turned to Jasmine. Are you ready? She nodded, even though her heartbeat said otherwise. Thank you for watching. Episode 1 ends here. Find out more about the story in episode 2 coming up soon. If you enjoyed the story, leave us a comment. Also like, share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever a new story is made.